Have you found yourself a lot more easily irritated? Or even worse, have you had angry outbursts that came out of nowhere and then you thought, what was that? And you never realized there was so much anger within you. So in this video, I'm going to share why you may be becoming a lot less tolerant and even easier to anger in menopause, and what you can do about it. If you're new here, my name is Shirley, and on this channel I share diet and lifestyle solutions to help you manage your menopause symptoms. So can the menopause really make us feel angry and irritated? For a lot of us women, I think we've been brought up to be kind, caring, patient, and society makes us feel like that we're not allowed to express our feelings or let alone our anger. But as we enter perimenopause or menopause and we're dealing with lack of sleep, stress, weight gain, fluctuating hormones, hot and cold flushes, and all these things really affect our self-esteem. And when we hit perimenopause or menopause, it's like the inner senses within us to be more tolerant and patient with people switches off. And instead, a switch goes on that makes us turn into a ball of anger with zero tolerance. So it can come as a shock for us who may be wondering, who is this person that we're turning into? And also for other people around us to suddenly find that you've turned into someone full of hate is too strong, but someone who's full of anger that seems to have been suppressed and now it's exploding with menopause. And for some people, being able to switch that inner sensor off can be such a relief. And there might also be issues unresolved from our childhood. It can be really easy to let go and let rip and say what we really feel or what we really think at that moment in time. But if the anger is directed at your boss or someone at your work or even customers that you have to deal with, our anger may have consequences that we'll regret at a later time. So why are we getting more irritable and easily angered in menopause? There are several reasons for this, and of course one of the main things is because of lower female hormones, and not just estrogen, but also all the other hormones that we have. Estrogen also affects our brain and neurotransmitters, especially the ones that affect our moods and behaviors. Estrogen is actually a downstream hormone that converts testosterone into estrogen. As our estrogen levels naturally decrease from perimenopause transition onwards, this conversion from testosterone into estrogen may be affected by our diet and lifestyle. And what happens is that we may get an imbalance of too much testosterone in relation to estrogen. And this can lead into us getting more male characteristics such as anger, aggression, and irritability. And this may also be one reason that you're losing hair on your head, but you're growing it more on your chin. And for the first time in a long time, you may also start getting acne or spots. Estrogen also regulates hormones that allow us to stay calm during times of stress. And one of the other hormones that estrogen affects is serotonin. And serotonin is the neurotransmitter that helps us to feel happier, calmer, more focused, less anxious, and more emotionally stable. In a similar way, estrogen also affects our oxytocin, which is our love hormone. And oxytocin controls our behavior when it comes to caring for other people, as well as our moods in terms of helping us to calm down, helps to lower our depression and anxiety levels, as well as how we interact with other people. It's no wonder then that as estrogen levels drop, affecting our serotonin and oxytocin levels, that we become less tolerant of people and we become more easily irritated and angry at perimenopause and beyond. And I'm sure you know what this feels like, that people who you love or who you are really close to, you begin to feel irritated by a lot of things that they do, even hearing them chew their food or even hearing them breathe at times. And also there'll be times where you'll probably be waiting in a queue and you'll patiently be looking around, keeping yourself entertained. Whereas now, if you get in a queue and there's someone in front taking their time, where you used to see them with compassion and let them take their time, you now stand there tapping your fingers and being really irritated at the person who may genuinely have reasons not to be able to move faster within the queue. But it's not just estrogen that affects our mood. Lower progesterone also affects our mood. And that's because progesterone also supports a neurotransmitter called GABA. And GABA is actually the neurotransmitter that balances another hormone called glutamate, which glutamate is a neurotransmitter that keeps us all excited, irritable, and highly stimulated. And progesterone supports GABA, which is the neurotransmitter that balances out the excitability of glutamate. So when our progesterone levels drop, which it can drop a lot quicker than estrogen, we no longer have progesterone supporting our calming neurotransmitter. And this is why it's a lot easier to get irritated and irritable and angry at people and situations from perimenopause into menopause and beyond. So what can we do about calming our anger and aggression? Being a nutritional therapist, you know that the first thing I'm going to say is to make changes in your diet. One of the first diet changes to make is to cut back on sugary and high simple carbohydrate foods in your diet. And I know I keep saying this, but sugar affects so much of our body systems and our hormones. And if you are a lady who is experiencing hair loss on top of your head, or your hair is getting really thin, but you're getting hair on your chin and you're getting acne, and your anger and your emotions is affecting your lifestyle and people around you, one of the most effective way of beginning to calm these anger and these reactions and the male characteristics is to cut down on sugar and simple carbohydrate foods. And that's because sugar and highly processed foods affect the conversion of testosterone, and not only lowers the conversion of testosterone into estrogen, but sugar can also affect the conversion of testosterone into more potent testosterone. And this may be one reason why you are getting a lot more of the male aggression and irritability and anger. And these foods create sugar imbalances, which means that it causes our blood sugar levels to rise too high, and our body can only process around a teaspoon of sugar at a time. And when we're eating a lot of pastries, cakes, biscuits, and all those high carbohydrate foods, they raise our blood sugar levels, which means that our body has to bring all that sugar back down by releasing insulin. And depending on how sugary or how high the carbohydrates you've taken will depend on how much insulin gets released and how quickly insulin is released. And this can bring our blood sugar levels back down. And an hour or two later, we can feel hungry again, or we can feel tired and irritable and angry. And this sharp decrease in your blood sugar levels may be what causes you to lash out at people, and anger comes out of nowhere, and then when it finally calms down, you think, where did that come from? So by cutting back down on sugary, high carbohydrate foods, you may reduce your episodes of anger and irritability, and you'll have a lot better control over your emotions. The next types of food to add in your diet is to have lots of healthy fats. Now, estrogen affects our brain and neurotransmitters, and our brain is made mostly of fats, and our neurons are covered in a layer of fat, and this is what makes it a lot easier for our nervous system to communicate and transfer electrical impulses and information from one neuron to another. And that's why it's really important that we have lots of sources of healthy fats in our diet. In this video in the eye above, I've covered a lot more information about healthy fats, so I'll put the link also in the description down below, so you can go and watch that if you'd like to find out more how healthy fats can help you in perimenopause and beyond. So the one thing that I have a lot of in my diet are sources of protein, and I do have animal sources of protein, but if you are vegetarian or vegan, you can have plant sources of protein, which are your beans, your lentils, your legumes. And the way protein helps us to calm our nervous system or to calm our anger and irritability is because protein is a lot harder to digest, and because of that it helps to slow down the digestion and absorption of carbohydrates, which means that it helps us to, one, keep full for longer, and two, it helps to keep our blood sugar levels stable, which means we're less able to have those fluctuating blood sugar levels that can trigger our anger and irritability. Another reason that having more protein in your diet is because proteins provide the amino acid tryptophan, and tryptophan is the precursor to serotonin. So by having more protein in your diet, you're helping your body provide the building blocks for tryptophan to convert into serotonin, helping to calm your aggression, your irritability, your anger, helping to stabilize your moods, and helping you to sleep better. And we know that when we sleep better, we have better control of our moods. The next tip that I have when it comes to making changes in your diet to calm your menopause anger and irritability is have lots more magnesium-rich foods in our diet. Magnesium is a mineral that helps with over 300 processes in our body. And when it comes to our mood and behavior, magnesium has a calming effect on our nervous system. Not only does magnesium help to calm the neurotransmitters that makes us a lot more irritable and angry, magnesium also supports the neurotransmitter GABA, which we've already talked about, that GABA is the neurotransmitter that helps us to feel calmer, less angry, less stressed, less anxiety, and less fearful. If you're getting value from the information I've shared so far, I'd love you to hit the like button so YouTube knows to share this video with other women who may benefit from the information I share here. And if you'd like to have more diet and lifestyle tips to help you manage your menopause symptoms, consider subscribing and hitting the bell icon so you'll get notified when I've posted another video. So tip number 2 is to go for a walk or get active in some way. Now I know we're in our midst of our anger, it can be really easy to get carried away and just say things that we may not really mean, which is why it's really important to become aware when we are feeling triggered by our anger or irritability and remove ourselves and go for a walk. Because I know that it can be really easy to get carried away by our anger or our emotions at that time. But if it starts affecting our relationships with loved ones or even people at work or our customers, it can have consequences that we may later regret. So by going out for a walk, you're allowing yourself to get some fresh air, some distance from the anger or the irritability that you may be feeling. Going for a walk also calms down the cortisol that may have been generated from your moments of anger or irritability, helping to calm your nervous system down. The one thing I've found when it comes to exercise and going for a walk is that it also helps to grow the connections, or it's called brain-derived neurotrophic factors. And these are the connections in our brains that will help us to feel calmer and help improve our moods. Alternatively, you can do weight-bearing exercises such as lifting weights, and that will also, one is to build the muscles to help you cope with those blood sugar fluctuations a lot better, and two, working out with weights may help you use up cortisol and release that pent-up anger and frustration that you may be feeling and that may be bubbling to the surface, helping you to have better control of your moods. Alternatively, if you're brave enough, you can join a boxing club, which apparently helps with thrashing out those pent-up anger and emotions out of your system too. Alternatively, a cheaper and more private way of getting your frustrations out could be thumping or screaming into pillows. But I do suggest maybe this is one to do when you're alone, away from people and animals, because you probably don't want to scare them. And it may sound silly, but we do have to look for ways to release our anger and frustration without causing any emotional harm to other people and to ourselves. Tip number 3 is to let other people know how you're feeling and how your hormones are affecting your moods and how they're making you feel a lot more angry and irritated, and maybe saying things that you really don't want to say or you don't mean, even though you say it at the time. And that it feels like that sometimes you've got no control over your emotions. And that's not to say that we should let rip because of our hormones. It's just to help you express how you're feeling when you are in a more calmer situation. That your reactions at the time is not you and it's just your hormones. And if your anger and irritability is affecting your work and people you work with, it may be time to speak to a manager or someone helpful to help them know that you're going through a challenging time with your menopause, and hopefully they'll start implementing something at work to help support you through this challenging time in your menopause journey. So tip number 4 is to go and see your doctor. With everything that's going on in your body, the hormonal, the physical, emotional changes, it really helps to go and see your doctor. One is to make sure that there are no underlying health issues. And 2, that if you do need more support, that your doctor may be able to refer you to other professionals who may be able to help you better. Now, if you're wanting to know how magnesium can help calm your menopause anxiety, check out this video.